it does, the fresh to frozen. We get blueberries, we get cherries, sometimes raspberries.
Okay.
So, but we get the fruits, they go through the process, the validation process, the QA process, the food safety process,
Yeah.
and then they get to be frozen and then converted of what we call the raw material. But then compared to Mexico, in Mexico, you have a huge team that actually takes all these fruits and, for instance, the mango, they would peel off the mango and they would cut it and then making sure that everything is
Peel it by hand.
Peel it by hand.
Wow.
And making sure that the quality are met every time. So you get a good size of chunk of mangoes and then it goes through the process.
Hello and welcome to today's session of Crossroads, where we talk to industry leaders and supply chain experts about what's going on in their business and the world around them. We're coming to you today from Montreal, Canada, where I'm joined by Edouard Ades, Vice President of Supply Chain at Nature's Touch Frozen Foods. I've spent the last 24 hours in Montreal, and I tell you, for anybody who's watching this now, if you haven't been to Montreal, you need to come to Montreal. Although I would say the summertime is a little warmer. But I really enjoyed my evening in Montreal last night, got to know a little bit about the city. One thing I can say is a fantastic subway system. Edouard, I work in Chicago. While the subway is very functional in Chicago, it maybe isn't the cleanest. My experience in the subway here in Montreal was great. For those of you who know me at work, you know that I either walk to work or ride my bike to work. And I did not sample the Bixie bike in Montreal. So that's my next trip, is to cycle around the city. So as I mentioned, I'm here with Edouard Ades of Nature's Touch. Nature's Touch operates all across North America, Canada, and United States, sourcing fruit and vegetables from 21 countries around the world. Edouard, welcome to our conversation today.
Thank you, John. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Well, so Ed, before we get started with the business stuff, let's talk a little bit of non-business. I spent some time doing some research about you, looking at your work past, and as I was doing some research, this common theme of hockey kept coming up. And I'm American, so I think, all guys in Canada play hockey. But no, it seems like you've been coaching hockey and youth hockey for quite a while. Tell me about that.
Yeah, of course. Well, actually, I played hockey at first, just to get, just like everybody else, just like all the kids in the neighborhood. So I played for 7 years. I mean, I started only at 10 years old. Usually kids, they would start almost 3, 4, some even 2. They would rather, we say that they rather know how to skate better than they walk at 2 years old.
Yeah.
So I played for 7 years, good experience, had a lot of fun. But then in my last year, during the hockey camp, I got a knee injury. So I had to stop. I couldn't go back on my skate. I couldn't skate properly. And obviously I couldn't continue for the rest of the season. So during the upcoming days, upcoming weeks, I started to put my skates back, trying to the ice, like the free public ice skating. And then I met this team manager that I already knew, who told me, he goes, well, instead of you just going to the public ice skating, why don't you come and help me coaching my son's youth hockey team? And I said, well, I don't know anything about coaching, so what is it that you want me to do? And she said, well, just the basic stuff. Learn how to skate, skating with the puck, passing the puck, shooting the puck, just basic stuff. So I went there, first practice, I enjoyed it, and then I stayed on. And that continued for 10 years.
Wow,
10 years in a row. And then I stopped, and I started coaching back 4 years ago when my son started hockey.
Oh, that's terrific. That's 10 years of giving back to the community is really amazing. And coaching youth sports is, I think, very, very fulfilling. Absolutely. So it sounds like were not drafted top choice by the Canadiens and had to opt for a career in business.
Exactly. I mean, I wasn't part of any NHL team's plan. I mean, far from it. So.
Well, I think it's 1 in 100 or 1 in 1,000 that actually make it that far. So. But thank you for giving back to the community and coaching sports. But you made this move from youth hockey coaching into supply chain. Tell me a little bit about that journey. How was supply chain always in the back of your mind when you were 6 and you were on the playground? You were thinking, oh, how am I going to move this ball to that place? Is this like supply chain your dream?
I wouldn't say it was my dream back then. I think it became a dream eventually, but it wasn't my dream back then.
Yeah.
What was my interest was technology. I was a fan of technology. I still am, but I was seeing all these consultants going all over the world, doing ERP implementation.
Yeah.
And I was being sold about this idea that this is a great life. I mean, this is not only like good a self-assessment on yourself. You go out there, you work with customers, you have various projects. I mean, you're always on the road. You get to visit nice cities around the world. It's like a good vibe, good beat. So that was interesting. And I went toward that path. I went toward technology. One of my first position was actually a business intelligence consultant.
Okay.
And I did a few consulting. Went to see the customers and went on site, develop solutions with them. It was interesting. It was really appealing. I didn't get travel as much as I was told I would say that I would be, which was fine. But at the end of the day, it was the work that brought me maybe to where I am today. My first assessment in business intelligence was developing dashboard and reporting that was focused on supply chain activities, inventory management, freight management, warehousing, financials aspect. So I think it started. I think the supply chain backbone started
the bug bit you back then.
Exactly. I think it started at that time to get that interest to get into supply chain. And then as I moved to various positions in my career, then supply chain became, I think, a nice segue to get there, and still am, and looking more forward than anything else to stay in supply chain.
Excellent. Well, I think that you'll probably put that the BI dashboard to work around sustainability in the future, and I'm going to come back to that later in our discussion. But supply chain is, it can often be a roller coaster, right? It's not the smoothest, easiest, everyday repetitive job that some people love, and other people love the change of the roller coaster every day. Do you have a wild ride story that comes back from your career?
Absolutely. I mean, there's a good story. I mean, that teach me a good lesson. A few years ago, when I was working at Keurig in the coffee business, we were launching a new platform. It was called Keurig 2.0. Okay. So it was the next step generation, the big generation of brewers. We had everything planned. I mean, there was a massive marketing campaign behind that launch.
All the planning, all the development.
All the planning, all the development. I mean, the reason why a consumer would convert to whatever machine they have to the Keurig 2.0.
Yeah.
Even if somebody already has a Keurig Brewers, they would still convert it and buy this new one. So they had everything all mapped out. So on our side, on the supply chain planning side, then we worked with all of the sales team, with the retailers. So what's the forecast? What the planner looking like? What's the forecast per store, per region, per model? So we had everything mapped out. Everything was good. Then at some point in time, you get all the POs being sent out to the facility so they could produce those brewers.
Sure.
Then a few weeks later, you get those brewers. They start coming in to North America.
Yeah.
And then we get the warehouse full, and then we get the customers ordering the brewers. So
of course, and they're flying off the shelf.
They're flying off the shelf. So they're on the shelves, and then we have everything set up. Now we're only waiting consumers to go to the stores and buy them.
Right.
And then something's happening. The sales are not there.
Uh-oh.
So then a few questions starts popping out. So a few question marks starts coming up. What's happening? Why is the consumer not buying actively or as planned? And then a bunch of assumption. Well, maybe it's a question of timing. Maybe because they did not see the ad, or they were not seeing all these activities. And then we said, fine, well, we have promotional activities coming up. We have the US Thanksgiving coming up.
Yep.
So, and then we have the Black Friday.
Black Friday, of course.
Exactly. Yep. And then you have the Cyber Monday.
Yep.
So we say, fine, we're going to achieve the number. We're going to hit those numbers. It's not going to be an issue. And again, after Cyber Monday, we still did not achieve the expected volume. I mean, we had a good sale, obviously, but we did not achieve the target. So then we have the retailers coming back and saying, well, guys, I don't know what's happening, but then we have those brewers now on the shelves in our back warehouse. We're not going to be able to order as planned right now. We have to deplete that inventory.
Yeah.
So now you trickle the step back. Our warehouses were full, and we still have a lot of brewers coming in. They're on the water. So we have an overflow now of brewers.
Oh boy.
So we were supposed to have, let's say, a target of maybe 6 to 8 weeks on brewers. We're now looking at about 6 to 8 months.
Oh.
So not the same game. And back then, with the management coming up and seeing what's happening, well, they started a new inventory management rigid program.
Okay.
Everything was being looked at, with the lowest level of details. Like, why did we purchase this amount? Why that happen? What was the rationale behind the forecast of that specific model for that specific region? And that was put into the looking forward. So now that you're going to plan for the future, you go down again to the rationale. You go down to the lowest level of details, and everything was being looked very carefully. Whether it was a cup for coffee, whether it's a brewer, a spare part, anything. So that brought us some rigid and rigor in inventory management and understanding and challenging ourselves. Yeah. What are we looking at? Not only taking assumption that consumer will like it because it was the best brewer, it's the best coffee, but why would the consumer buy it? Why would the consumer take this product instead of another one? Yeah. So that gives us, and personally, it gave me this inventory control mindset on how you can always achieve your target, but having the right plan. Yeah,
it sounds like you're turning a tough situation into a great learning experience, and
absolutely,
and hopefully that has borne some fruit for you in the years to come. And I know you just bought a company recently, and I'm guessing that this very strict detail around inventory and management of your forecast is going to come handy.
Absolutely. Actually, it's been a month now that we made this acquisition, and it has been a good journey. I could tell you that, but similar to this inventory management control and that lesson on day one, I started applying those rules, and after a month, we're already seeing some good and positive output and outcome, which is good. And there's only opportunities to get even better.
Excellent. Well, let's transition a little bit over to the business side of things. All right, we've talked a little hockey. We've talked a little of your personal past. Tell me about Nature's Touch. How did you get to Nature's Touch? Why Nature's Touch, and what got you there?
It's interesting. I mean, I was in the coffee business. Mm-hmm. Then I moved to the dairy business, and then to the sugar business. So I think you have the combo.
Always been in food.
So you have the combo for the coffee, milk, and sugar. So you're all good on that side. There. I covered that part. Then frozen fruit was an interesting choice. I mean, obviously, I love fruits. And I've been knowing the company for a couple of years, so I know the products. We were buying the products. I mean, the products were good. So for me, joining Nature's Touch was a natural fit. I mean, natural fit, knowing especially that this category, there's a lot of innovation. There's a lot of opportunities. It's not only a smoothies product. There's a lot of products that could be fulfilled out of the utilization of frozen fruits.
This is a big category. It's projected to be frozen fruit. Now, this I did not know. $5 billion category, frozen fruit. Dang.
Absolutely.
And Nature's Touch is the #1 frozen fruit provider in North America. Is this right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Wow.
And including now we have a facility in Mexico, so this is also a good addition to our operation.
Yeah. That's I'm going to want to come back to the Mexico operations piece, because I think there's some both supply chain complexity as well as production, some really interesting production stories that I've heard about down in Mexico. Okay, so your role as the VP of supply chain. Talk to me about how you're applying supply chain to helping drive growth at the company, and then how you see technology playing a part in helping you both drive efficiency as well as growth.
On supply chain, I mean, you're in the middle of the business. So everything goes and passes by supply chain.
Yep.
You want to go for growth. You want to look for a lot of opportunities. You need to make sure that your supply chain, the backbone of your business, is sustainable, and it helps you bring to those opportunities. If you don't have a good supply chain, then it's not easy to go to the next level.
Yep.
So by joining Nature's Touch, I mean, my mandate and my opportunities were to change the way Nature's Touch is looking and working actively on supply chain. Where are those opportunities? How can I fix all these, I would say, these inefficiencies in terms of freight management, in terms of warehousing, and how can we work differently with our partners and optimize the supply chain, and also including internally, how can we work on the ways of working, all those processes? How can supply chain be more integrated with all the stakeholders, so all the cross-functional teams? So that's also part of the what I call the future look for growth. You need to have this sustainable processes in supply chain to help you to get to the next level.
That's right. Whenever somebody outside of work asks me about our area is the transportation management system, and when they ask me about transportation, they say, well, they make the assumption that transportation is about supply chain is about getting goods into a factory, and it's all about getting goods or shipping goods. And my answer is supply chain is about sales, because without supply chain, you can't fulfill sales.
Exactly.
And so to me, it's all about the top line and enabling that through supply chain.
Yes.
You mentioned one thing. You talked about partners, talked about and I assume you have partners all throughout the supply chain journey, and also about customers. When we're talking about partners, details matter in terms of supply chain. Can you elaborate maybe on some of the ways that you've been optimizing the way you work inside of your organization?
Yeah, of course. A good example, when I joined Nature's Touch, we had issues on the drayage services, demurrage, detention. Mm-hmm. So moving these containers from port to the facilities and back to the port. Mm-hmm. So it wasn't optimal. I mean, you have a certain amount of days, and it's not always, you don't have 20 days. You have just a few days to move these containers, to unload them, unstuff them, and then put them back empty, back to the port. I would say that process was inefficient, as we were paying a lot of demurrage, if not detention. So we were spending a lot of money because those containers were not moving fast enough. So working with the carrier on the drayage, working with the lumber company and even within our own facility or the 3PLs, depending where we send those containers, how can we increase the efficiency? How can we turn these containers faster to make sure that when they leave the port, they get unstuffed within a certain service level agreement, so a certain period of time, and then that container goes back straight to the port without having any issue. So we worked with all of our partners, and they provided opportunities to talk about solutions. They provided solutions. One of them said, well, can you de-stuff in the middle of the night? So at 5 a.m., when I start my run, I can come and pick up your container. So we worked on it internally with our plant here in Montreal. So we worked with the team to manage a schedule so the containers is empty at 5 a.m.
Perfect.
And we saved a day, maybe a day and a half, 2 days, part of the process. Then we don't have to worry about not bringing the containers empty back to the port. It was there way ahead of time. Same thing with the offloading. So all of this, bringing all these partners into the discussion and challenging them and having them challenging us on the way we could change our own processes and adapt, that helped us. And we went from a lot of money that we spent on demurrage and detention to now pretty much, I'm not going to say almost nothing, but a good reduction by almost 80%.
Wow, that's a fantastic story. It's actually quite similar to the folks at Accuride, which is one of our customers in the Detroit area. They are in the heavy vehicle wheel business, but same issues. Getting containers in, having visibility to where they are on the water, where they are in port, where they are in transit to the distribution facility, and being able to make all of their stakeholders aware along that journey of not only where is the container, but also what's in it. So we know what to expect at the distribution center when it arrives.
Exactly.
Sounds very similar to your journey.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yep. Okay. Well, can we talk a little bit about Nature's Touch itself? What's driving some complexity in the business? I know you made a big acquisition recently. And what do you see as the big drivers in the coming 6 to 12 months of your business?
Well, we have, on Nature's Touch side, even prior to the acquisition, we had our plan, to grow the business, obviously, but also to continue to improve our supply chain processes and how we could integrate more innovation into the organization, and how, again, as a supply chain team, how can we make sure to fulfill all these orders and then they go out to the customers. One of the plan that we also started working was on the technology side. Like, what's our plan to have an integrated supply chain? Getting the technology that we need inside our walls to make sure that we have, back to your point, the visibility of our operation, so we know exactly what's happening. We don't have to worry about having multiple spreadsheets that covers all the data. So we know and have a one-stop shop, so we could take decision quickly. and act quickly. And at some point, moving from being reactive to becoming even more proactive, which is what we all want. And now with this acquisition, I would say we're going to have to rework these plans and upgrade them to now integrate the way they work, the way they used to work in their past, to how we want them now to work under one roof. And obviously, they have some good best practices that we're going to take advantage of. So we're going to share those best practices from both sides and apply them. And now we're going to have a better, I would say, a best in class at some point processes. So we can make sure that on both fronts, so Nature's Touch now being this new global organization can benefit of all these efficiencies that we're going to get to go again to the next level. I mean, there's multiple opportunities out there on the market. We can take advantage of them.
So in my mind, best in class is a combination of people, process, and technology. Sounds like you've got the process nailed. People, largely so. Technology, how are we doing there?
Technology, we have room to grow.
Have some room to grow. Okay.
Definitely. But I mean, we're still working and advising on our plan. The integrated plan. What this plan will look like? What type of technology do we need? What type of solution do we need? And what's the expected output that we want from that solution? So one thing that I don't want to make sure that we fall into a trap is getting a software, getting a tool, and then we don't use it fully. And it doesn't bring the efficiencies, it doesn't bring the advantage or all the benefits that we were expecting from the tool. I want to make sure that once we deploy a nice software, a nice tool to the organization, we get benefit that we were expected, and even more. And again, it's always about looking to the future. Because at some point, as part of looking to the future, we need to review the change management that goes behind the scene. You did mention about the people. We have a great team. We have great people working at Nature's Touch. We need to make sure that we have the right tool for them so we could benefit from all of their knowledge, all of their hard work, and again, to find all these opportunities to continue to get better at what we do so we can continue to move forward.
Yeah, well, it sounds like the company is going through a big growth period, and with growth comes change. And it sounds like to me that they're lucky they have you there because of your foundation as a IT program manager, and then working through some of the difficult times at Keurig and some of the good times at all your other firms. So
absolutely, and I'm also lucky to have them being with me all day long.
yeah, that's great. But fruit is not car parts, right? So when I deal with some of our automotive industry customers or people that make stuff, right? It's all a upfront engineering exercise. We develop the product, we make prototypes, we build dies at a plant, and we make or cut or mold a real actual part, and then it comes off the line exactly the same in the thousands. This is not the case for fruit, is it?
Well, we have some good programs to make sure that the quality we put in each bag is respected. I mean, you're not gonna have a roller coaster of bags. You're not gonna have one good bag and then one I would say bag that is not having the same type of quality. You're always gonna have something that is good quality. We have a rigid and a rigor that ensure that everything that we pack towards our facility, it's 100% expected as per the requirement of the customer, but also on the consumer. So then the consumer doesn't see any difference. It's always the same. So we're actively working on that, and we have all our employees. I mean, they're really diligent about it. I mean, we all love fruit. They love it. They want to make sure that the consumers are always happy. So if we do see that at some point you get a strawberry, and then you see that some strawberries they're smaller than the other one when it should be, let's say, the big whole strawberries. Well, they're going to raise a flag right now. They're not just going to let it through. There's always some good quality control processes on every single step. I mean, the cold chain process is a solid one. And yeah, I can say that we're not going to be able to face that type of issue because we have people who care. And we have people who care and people that always going to raise flag if there's anything. Yep.
Now, you mentioned before the recent SRG, the purchase acquisition, SRG, and that that acquisition is bringing to you operations in Mexico.
Yes.
some new and different ways of caring for fruit, harvesting fruit, preparing it for processing. Tell me a little bit about your Mexico operations and what's different than what you're used to with maybe a raspberry or a blueberry.
Yeah, no, for sure. Well, there's still a lot of understanding at my part that I need to have about this Mexico operation. Yeah. I mean, I'm just in the middle of starting to better understand what's happening down there, what they work, how they work. But they do have this capacity from the fresh to frozen to blast all the fruits, really. So to convert them from fresh to frozen. They have this ability. They have seasonal worker that will stay either for several months, some for the year, because they do everything. They would get the fruit from the harvesting the fruit. They're gonna add the plant. You have people who's gonna be peeling the fruit, cutting them, and then they process it through the freezing process. So this is a different type of operation that we don't necessarily have at the Apiary at Nature's Touch.
Wow. All right. Next time I eat some previously sliced mango, I'm going to remember this story.
Absolutely. And it's a good snack, actually. You should consider it. There's getting fruits, mango, cherries, I mean, all of the fruits, any fruits that you like, right off the freezer. You could take it as a snack. I mean, it's a good snack.
All right. I'm going to look for this next time I'm in the grocery store. Yeah, on the digital transformation side of things, we've touched a little bit about your systems and your organization, but talk to me a little bit about the global nature of your business and how you may I don't know, I'll call it a chess move. What's a significant chess move that you've made within your business, ideally using technology or maybe not? But talk to me a little bit about.
Well, I think with the chess move, I mean, we obviously supply chain. You need to control your cost, and that's always going to be the challenge because everybody, especially with what's happening in the last year, all this inflation, and at some point, everybody wants to increase the rates, whether it's the carrier, whether it's a warehouse, whether it's anybody. Everybody wants to increase the rates. So then becomes a question of, well, you have a budget. You need to control that budget. You cannot just overspend every time. So similar to the example that I mentioned about the drayage services, the chess move was, again, I would say a bit of a collaboration before making a move of bringing all these carriers, all these 3PL services, and all the suppliers that we work with. And my key messages to them was, well, I don't want to have a vendor-supplier relationship. I want to have a partnership. I want to have you guys to talk to us as we are a good partner. And we're going to establish and we're going to build that partnership. And I think they appreciated that approach. And then by building this partnership, you get to know the solutions that they deliver to other customers. I mean, every single customers, I'm going to say now suppliers, they have their own dynamic. So some solution that was developed for, let's say, this company could be good for you, but you don't know it. But this partner knows about it. So it's more of getting the insight from the partner of, well, what is it that you do for other customers that could benefit us?
Sure.
And then like you can know and the limits of where you could get as part of renewing either the rates, renewing the way you want to work with them, but you get to know them better. And then out of getting all this insight, now you can make some chess move and say, well, after discussion, after better understanding what I can do with you, well, I clearly see that with this partner, I could develop more business.
Yep.
And I'm going to benefit by giving him more business.
Yeah, both benefit.
Exactly. So then you go down to that path, but you don't necessarily discard the other supplier or the other partner. You could still give him or give a little bit of business, but at least where you could play the angle, and then you could continue having this discussion on a regular basis, and you maintain it to get this insight from all the partners.
Yeah, that sounds great. Get a constant market insight inflow that helps you plan your business. I know we've all been living through a fairly inflationary time these last 6 to 12 months, and I suppose that this kind of partnership has borne fruit, if I may.
Absolutely.
Excellent. Okay, now there's no boardroom of any public or private company these days where somebody is not asking about sustainability. And I know that my wife, if she's listening, or my colleagues at work in Chicago, they know I'm working on my carbon footprint. I'm trying to walk everywhere and ride my bike as much as I can. I still use a gas lawnmower, much to my chagrin. But talk to me about the sustainability initiatives at Nature's Touch and what you're doing.
No, for sure. I mean, some of them were how can we convert the over-the-road shipment to rail services.
Okay.
So that's, I mean, I know a lot of organizations will say they already do it. I mean, but we're doing it. We're growing as well towards that. But I mean, every time we do see an opportunity to use the rail versus a truck on the road, we're going to take advantage of it. In addition, I mean, and I've been with Nature's Touch for about 16 months. So in the last year, I've been more implicated into sustainability programs. And now that we better understand the carbon emission, we could go down now and have different discussion with our partners on the carrier side. I mean, whether it's the reefer side or the drayage services, even on the rail. But how can we utilize different services? For instance, we do have raw materials, so all these frozen fruit that moves from Mexico that goes to Canada. We could bring them over the road, but we could also leverage the rail, which is something that we're actively looking. But again, it has to be, we have to make sure that everything works fine. But this is the opportunity that we could work on. And there's other opportunities like that. Yeah. And we do have a good and solid sustainability team at Nature's Touch. And we're going to work more onto developing these plans and going back again to our partners at every partners that we work with to see how can we reduce all this carbon emission, like what opportunities we have, and they could even suggest us to work on so we could achieve all these targets.
Excellent, because a lot of companies these days are just measuring their carbon, their CO2 footprint, and that's good. We need to. If we don't measure, we don't have a baseline. But I think the next frontier, the next evolution of that is pouring into your planning process the trade-offs of cost and service level and carbon emission. And by having a piece of software perhaps like Pando, which is, for us, we are very actively engaged in developing the capabilities for doing dynamic planning to balance the trade-off of cost SLA and carbon footprint, so that guys like you in advance can know in advance of a shipment, well, what's our best route to market and what are the implications of it? Cool. Well, hopefully we'll be bringing that to your shores very soon at this point. When we're talking about operating rhythm, I find that most successful people have a way they work, that it's a rhythm. My personal rhythm is Sunday. Every Sunday morning, I drain my inbox before 9 a.m. Every Sunday night, I have my action items for the week and for the month so that I know going into the next day, I'm ready to roll. Edouard, tell me a little bit about your operating rhythm.
Pretty much similar, except of Sunday morning, it's Sunday night. In the morning, I have to travel from one ring to the other.
Gotcha. Hockey, I forget. Yep.
Exactly, coaching all the time, all weekend long. But no, Sunday night, I would sit down, take the time that I need to go over emails, drain email, look up at the follow-ups that were done, that were completed, anything that is still outstanding that needs to be tackled. And I'm going to put it into orders, into priorities of anything that needs to be tackled on Monday.
Gotcha.
And then I would flow up between Tuesday and Fridays, and then I will see where the priorities going. If anything needs to be tackled on, let's say, on a Wednesday or Thursday, because it's not a rush, then I would put it out this way.
Yep.
And usually on the Wednesday morning, now this time, or Wednesday in the middle of the day, I would take that time back again to go over. So did we
look at the plan?
Exactly.
Reevaluate, restack rank.
Exactly. So did we achieve? Was the priorities that I flagged down to be closed on Monday? Are they done? Is there anything outstanding? Is there a takeaway that was discussed that we still need to work on, or I still need to work and deliver before the end of the week? So just to review, what's the status of all these priorities, and then the game plan for the rest of the week. And then I would circle it back again. And if needed, at some point, I will also do it on Friday morning just to clear out and to make sure that by Friday night, the most of it, if not all of it, is cleared out. So then you get your mind at ease for the weekend, and then it starts back on Sunday night.
Great. Okay, my second question is about mentorship. And A, do you have a specific mentor, and B, what's kind of some of the best advice that he or she or they have given to you over the years? Me personally, I don't have a specific person that I work with. I probably should. Got to think about that one. But Talk to me about your sources of advice and wisdom.
Yeah. Well, I don't have necessarily one mentor, but I took advice from various leaders, and some advice could be as simple as, well, if you're not sure that you feel the person you're talking to understands, just draw it. Just put it on the plan. Take your pen out, just put it on a piece of paper so everybody understands what's happening, or use a board. So it sounds simple, but it helps, and it has helped me several times. And it just makes things more clear. It's a picture, not only word. It's a picture, and now they jump to it, and you talk about it, and then you get everything resolved within more time than you would just do by talking.
Right. Yeah. Well, a picture says 1,000 words, as they say, right?
Exactly.
I think most human minds can digest a picture a lot more easily than hundreds of words.
Absolutely. And then from other leaders, it was more about how to address or how to send messages, to pass messages where you're in a big group and decision needs to be made, and you have various levels of individual. I mean, depending on their title into the organization, but you need this specific person to think about what you're going to be saying. So then it's being taken into consideration. So all of these little hint and tip that were given, and same thing, and obviously there's a lot that I'm still learning today. I mean, through my boss, who's the owner and founder of Nature's Touch, who's giving me a lot of good advice, obviously, on how to...
I bet you don't roll into a meeting with, is it John?
John, yes.
I bet you don't roll into a meeting with John without having a well-planned action
absolutely, because he will figure it out right away.
Yeah, so he'll start telling you what your plan is.
Exactly. Yeah. So then, but it's giving me good advice on how to address various type of situation, especially when I go out there and negotiate again with carriers or 3PL services or warehousing or any other, or even the bags and boxes, all the packaging, just getting this hint that all these little level of details that he's giving me has helped me in the past year that I've been working at Nature's Touch. Yep. And obviously this is going to help me for all the upcoming years.
Yeah. So I would say for those listening, details matter. And I really mean that. Okay. So we've got probably some people who are young in their career. What advice would you give to somebody who's coming up in supply chain and wants to make a career out of this?
I would say to make the most of it. And what I mean by that is making sure that the person can take various roles. And as you start into supply chain, I mean, that's where you have all this opportunity to move from, at some point, let's say you start as a logistic analyst. You want to move to a production planner. You want to move to a logistic planning manager. All these opportunities, there is a lot of opportunities, and there's going to be even more. I mean, supply chain is only growing. And there's probably position or some position that will be created in the upcoming years that we don't know yet, because the development hasn't been there at this time, but it will come. So just have this feeling, this aspect of touching everything. Yeah. And I would say...
Okay, so work your way around inside a corporation over time.
Exactly, and not to be held back, not to have anybody that tells you, you've been doing planning for X amount of time, so you can do logistics. No, that's just go, just push, get into logistics, get that additional wing, just get that information.
Who was it that said, if you don't fail, you're not trying hard enough?
Exactly.
That might be a Henry Fordism or something along that lines, but it sounds like similar advice, right?
Absolutely. I would say really to somebody, especially at the very beginning, to take that opportunity to do multiple job, see, and what I mean, like all these tasks, all these various positions, just to get a feel of what supply chain is. I mean, from all the 360 degrees of position that exist, to have the opportunity to test them out. And then at some point, you could specialize and you could say, you know what, 3PL management, let's say warehousing management, it's where I want to go.
That's it.
Or logistics, or planning, and that's fine. I mean, there's no issue with that, obviously.
But at that point, you've got a real balanced base.
Exactly.
Excellent.
Exactly.
I find that a lot of people have a moment in their life, a period in their life, a time in their life that really shaped who they are. I have a couple in my life that were like, big moments. But not everybody has this. Anything in this area you want to share with us about you?
I think it's multiple moments, multiple events. Coaching hockey is one of it.
Yeah.
Everything that happens when you coach hockey, when you win, you lose, all this interaction. How do you manage talent?
You don't have any spoiled brats on the team that throw their sticks after they lose, do you?
Exactly. But see, all the talent management. I mean, it's a bit funny. I mean, you start when I started, managing all these talent
management of 10-year-olds.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. And then, when you bring it into your work life, I mean, you're managing talent. I mean, it's obviously not the same level, not the same dynamic, but the same kind of I would say mindset gets in you. And then I would say the various position and the various, I would say, events that happened while I was holding this position. Earlier I was giving this example about Career 2.0, but there's several activities like that happen, whether it's in the coffee business, in the dairy business, or in the sugar business. There's always something that's happening, and then you have to go back to you have to take a step back and say, okay, so I learned this, or I had this situation, I lived through that situation before. Now this is the same, but there is a new constraint that is being added on. There is a new complexity that was added. So how can I manage this new complexity?
Yeah.
And I think all of this, it just makes you become the person that you are today.
That's great. Yep, it all adds up. Okay, we get to quit our jobs and we're going to play a sport for a living. I think this is way too easy of a question because you're Canadian. So what sport would you play? And you can say the Alouettes. I mean, the Alouettes just won the Grey Cup, all right?
Well, I'm not a good football player, so I would go with hockey.
You're going to go with hockey. Come on, man. Lacrosse is the national sport of Canada. For those who don't know, lacrosse is the originated right here in Canada. So you're going to go play professional hockey if you get to hang up your work
if I have the chance.
If you have the chance. Gotcha. All right. You get to live in one city. Montreal or Quebec City?
I would say in Montreal. It's my home city.
It's your hometown. It's a beautiful city. Rank these 4 hockey players in order of greatness. Guy Lafleur, Wayne Gretzky, Mario Lemieux, Martin Brodeur. There's not a bad player among them.
No, all good.
Give me a 1 through 4. Lemieux, Brodeur, Gretzky, Lafleur.
I would go with Lemieux.
Gretzky.
Lafleur. And Brodeur.
Wow. All right. Jeez, I got some French pronunciation I got to work on because I've always called him Brodeur. But all right. And this is the last section. I call it rapid fire. There's no thinking, just answers. Eddie Murray or Anne Murray?
Good question. I don't know any of them. Sorry.
Don't even know either of them.
Shame on me, but I don't know any of them.
Come on! I'm a kid from Detroit. Everybody who's my age who grew up in Detroit knows Eddie Murray. He was our kicker for the Detroit Lions. All right, you don't
Good
know
to know.
either.
Good to know. Thank you, John.
So, he's a Canadian. They're both Canadians, and she was a singer. Lacrosse or hockey?
Hockey,
of course. When you say your local team name, are they the Habs or the Canadiens?
Usually Canadians.
Fairmont Bagels, St. Fiacre Bagels.
Fairmont Bagels.
Fairmont Bagels. When you come to Montreal, you got to check out Fairmont Bagels. George St. Pierre or Mike Weir?
George St. Pierre.
St. Pierre, the original Quebecois badass. All right. Edouard, thanks for your time today. Really enjoyed the discussion. And thanks for hosting me in your home city of Montreal.
Thank you again, John. It was a real pleasure.
You're welcome. Great. Okay, well, that's a wrap. Thanks for joining us on Crossroads today. And we'll look to see you soon, coming to you from, our next port of call. Thanks again.